Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day Adam. How you doing?
Ah, what a time to be alive.
What a time.
We're recording on the 10th of April. This is the morning after the night before, where the share market roared back to life, 10% up after Trump announced that the tariffs would be paused. So we're going to talk about that, of course. But as always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see them, in line. Live. At CVE Podcast on all the platforms if you want to find us. Massive show coming up, Thomas. Is a rate cut now more on the cards for Australians or less on the cards? What even are the cards? And is the Fed fed up with tariffs? China's population, Thomas, has fallen for the third year in a row. I'm not sure what's more amazing, the fact that many people could all fall over at the same time, or the fact that it's happened 3 years in a row. But first, Thomas, Trump has fixed the share market. I hope you said thank you. It's very important to Trump and his team that people say thank you.
Thank you, yes. Oh my God.
Where are we at?
Where are we at? Yeah, so after Liberation Day.
Obliteration Day, as I saw it called. That was fun.
Right. That was nice. Yeah, so markets, sort of crashed, had the worst day since COVID on Monday, I think it was. But then, like, not even a week later, Trump's come out and announced that he's pausing the most aggressive tariffs, and which I suppose is the opposite of liberation. It's like Oppression Day.
Well, people seem to really like Oppression Day, though.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
We're bang up for a bit of oppression. Lock me down, Trump.
And markets came roaring back. So
I don't want to get too conspiracy theorist on this show, Thomas, but I do love a good conspiracy theory. And look, I'm not a follower on Truth Social. I'm not following the what do you even call them? The truths, the tweets, the posts, whatever. But Trump, just minutes before he announced the 90-day pause, he posted all caps because that's how he rolls. All caps. Good time to buy, and then just like my grandparents would do, put his name at the end of it or signed it off with DJT in case people didn't know who posted under the name Donald Trump on Truth Social, tagged it with his initials DJT, a little bit of a signature of authenticity. So he said good time to buy moments before announcing a 90-day pause that then saw the stock market take off.
Had its third best day since World War II. It's unbelievable.
I mean, he was right. So
he was right.
You know, if we're looking for truth on Truth Social, then by all accounts, he was right. He nailed it. He could say he called it.
He called it. Yeah.
Follow me for more tips and investing advice.
I know.
And this was then, of course, picked up by Reddit and others. And so in Wall Street Bets, which is my next port of call for any stock market related news and tips, they had a nice chart here showing that what appears to be a spike of all the insiders who got on just before the public became aware of the 90-day pause. And so a small group of people seem to all pile in shortly before the masses got wind. I did like one comment that said, unfortunately, I was in the shower when the message came through to the Signal group chat with the buy instruction. Is it possible that this is a little underhanded going on? Is it possible in this day and age, Thomas, that Trump is just kind of wielding some insider trading, architecting some? Is it possible that he's just president for the money?
For the money. It really seems like it. You had the whole crypto token thing, and then this, like literally announcing it half an hour before on the socials, so this is a good time to buy. Like, unbelievable. It's just incredible. Yeah, and for sure, it's kind of hard to imagine he didn't let everyone know. He didn't see, like, for sure this is going to send stocks spiking, because we actually saw it. Someone asked one of his aides, do you think that he might introduce a 90-day pause? And the guy said, oh, Trump will decide whatever he wants to decide. So completely non-committal. But then that got picked up by CNBC, which then reported a 90-day pause is on the cards. Stocks jumped like 5% just on that rumor, which lasted for like an hour and then got quashed, and then stocks fell again. So you had an example during the week of where the rumor of a 90-day pause saw stocks jump 5%. So I reckon Trump's teams looked at that saying like, well, if a rumor could do that, what happens when we announce a 90-day pause? Stocks to the moon, right?
Yeah. Is that, or it gives a lot of credence to the fact that maybe it wasn't a rumor. Like,
well, no, because like a case, like the question where the rumor came from was a guy refusing, saying like, I don't know what's going to happen. Trump will do whatever Trump does.
Well, I heard it was even worse than that. It was a AI like chatbot or whatever that was tracking the conversation and picked up the text inside a transcript of the conversation, then like reported it as news, as like So like AI is just going, oh, I heard 90 days is coming because someone asked about it. So that got then published as news by the fact-checking AI editor who passed it on to his AI publisher, and then and so the market reacted. But
but anyway, so the precedent was there, right? Like they knew that for sure an announcement of a 90-day pause was going to send stocks to the moon.
Yeah,
and I just feels like it's true to form for Trump. Just going like, I could make a lot of money then, and me and my mates could make a lot of money.
And he also comes off potentially looking like the guy who fixed it. Like let's move on from let's forget it. Like, I don't want to talk about who created this mess, right? But just look at who fixed it. It was DJT again, all the way.
DJT,
signed DJT. So it leaves him in the most recent memory, and you're only as good as your last game. He looks good.
The guy,
amazing,
unbelievable. And also now, like, everyone's got to follow Truth Social and his tweets to see the next market movement. The next pump signal.
Yeah, I've created 9 bot accounts already since it launched. just
to trade off his tweets. Man. It's just so unprecedented. Like, it's just
it's wild.
So beyond the norms.
I love it.
Yeah. It's
so we do have the 90-day pause now. Depending on who you are, of course. Like China, Mexico, and Canada weren't included in the pause. But it's still 10% across the board. So what do we make of the pause?
Well, that's the other thing. So he sort of got away with a free kick here, right? So he announced 10% tariffs across the board, plus a bunch of other more aggressive measures. Markets tanked. He then removed the aggressive measures, and markets spiked back up to where they were. But the 10%'s still in place across the board. So he's kind of got away with introducing a 10% tariff across the board, and markets haven't reacted to it. So he's kind of got a free kick there.
I know we're all meant to not like Trump. I kind of like him. If he's as clever as I'm starting to think he seems, like, then that's like,
he's smart. He's smart.
He's just someone who's entirely comfortable wearing criticism, and he's just like, you can call me what you want, you can say what you want about me. But I'm architecting some stuff here. I'm playing 4D chess. I am just like moving things around to suit largely me. But a lot of people in the world would do exactly that.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, and Trump, people keep saying like, oh, he's such an idiot. He's tanked the market. And like, no, he's not an idiot. Like, you don't get to be president of the US twice by being an idiot.
Sure, but not an idiot.
Yeah, that's right. he's very smart. He has an superhuman ability to weather criticism, just not give a toss what anyone thinks about him. And he has absolutely no moral compass other than serving himself, it seems, and making himself and people around him rich.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a
So
unique...
that leaves me in the position just going, I want to get around him.
So he can make you rich.
Yeah, basically. Like, you know,
Well,
if
you've
we're
got
all
no moral compass either, you're saying.
It's questionable, to be fair. It's very questionable. Not a great track record. No, I just think, you know, like that's why we're all why we're investors, why we're, you know, we're trying to make money in the stock market. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, but you don't want to destroy democracy in the process. Like, well,
It's not like it's crushing it, is it? Sometimes it's nice to have someone in charge. Tell us all what to do. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, right. Let's just invite the fascists in, shall we?
Well, it saves me thinking about what to do each day. I just go off to my job at the factory.
No,
I don't know. It's
no, like this is the thing. Like this is like capitalism is flawed, democracy is flawed, but it is the best possible system we've ever had. Right?
Yeah.
Like, like it's as good as it's ever been, because the alternatives, historical alternatives, are terrible. Right.
Yeah,
that what we've got, as flawed as it is and as problematic as it is, has been built up over generations with huge investment in the social infrastructure, the rule of law, all these things that keep it on track and keep the outcomes as good as they are, flawed as they are, but it's as good as they are. Trump is in the process, it seems to me, of dismantling all of those institutions for his own personal benefit. And what that leaves us with is a society that tilts more towards the historical norm. It reverts to the historical average, which is totalitarian fascism. Like that's, whether that's in, a regal form in a monarchy or whatever, but that's the system that humans keep gravitating towards. And we've had this unique period where we've lent against that and created a society that functions on a rule of law and strong judicial institutions and these things. But that's all being unwound under Trump. And I think that's why it's kind of scary.
But it's kind of fun too.
And kind of,
sure.
It's
like a roller coaster. It's a bit scary, but it's a bit fun. Get on the roller coaster, Thomas. Get off the merry-go-round and come onto the roller coaster. It's scary, but it's a lot more fun. All right, Thomas, we've had a lot of talk about tariffs, obviously, but a lot of it seems to be focused on what it means for trade and, buying and selling between countries and buying, consumers within each country. Curious to get your take on what it means for property and the property market in Australia.
Yeah, it's interesting. So some of the reaction this week is saying like this is going to trigger a boom, because one of the first things that with the tariffs that happened is that markets increased their bets for rate cuts this year from 3 to 4. And several economists were predicting a 50 basis point cut in May. That's the next RBA's next meeting. So expecting we're going to get a jumbo cut in May. And then 4 cuts, 100 basis points by the end of the year. I don't know where that stands now after last night, but if that were to happen and you get like 100 basis points and a jumbo cut of 50 basis points, property's already starting to lift. Prices are on the way up. You would expect that would put a rocket under it. Right. And that seems to be the standard thinking. But it was interesting. Christopher Joy made an interesting point that if these tariffs really kick in as, I mean, who knows where they are now, but like the worst case scenario, most aggressive scenario, which sort of locks down trade with China, but plus all those transition countries which China has been using, like Vietnam, for example. So once trade got blocked with China, they just set up factories in Vietnam and exported through Vietnam, which is why Vietnam attracted some really aggressive tariffs. But if effectively a big wall goes up around America is one of the big consumer markets in the world, and all of the goods that were heading for America now have to go somewhere else.
All right.
And
Temu.
And so, Yeah, exactly. That was, yeah. So Christopher Joy said, "Go long, Timu." Yeah, but saying that, yeah, that's going to go somewhere else. And what could happen in Australia as being an advanced economy and a relatively affluent consumer market is we could get all of those goods could end up being dumped on Australia,
right.
and coming in, and with that increased supply, it would mean that prices fall. So we could get some very cheap goods coming out of this trade war story as all those production centers then start to try to dump their goods on us.
Right. Happy days.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, and
So
it
that's
sort of
anything
like
produced, like anything produced in China. Like, and
China
don't
or anywhere.
underestimate
Yeah,
how much is produced there. Like everything from
yeah,
just plastic toy knick-knack things through to couches and
yeah.
just about
Or
everything you see on a shop floor at Harvey Norman.
yeah,
To be
yeah,
honest.
exactly. Yeah, like BYD cars or
Yeah.
a lot. Oh yeah, and once you add in those connector countries like Vietnam and so on,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it becomes then you're
Clothing and
talking
everything.
massive.
So how does that relate to house prices?
Oh, so that could be massively deflationary. Like you
Ah,
could looking at the price of a BYD car falling 25, 30, 40%,
yeah.
because they've now got to go somewhere because the US market is closed.
Yeah.
And if that happens, you've now got a deflationary shock hitting Australia with
Yeah.
prices falling quite substantially, and inflation. Then we don't know where that would end up, but like goods and electronics are a substantial proportion of the CPI basket, so it could have a substantial impact. And given we're already, we're in the band now and trending lower, it could bust us through the bottom of the RBA's target band, and that means that the RBA might have to cut much more aggressively than what we're currently pricing in order to get inflation back up into the band and lean against all this deflationary pressure coming out of these production centers.
Right.
So if that happens, you could end up with a massive property price boom on the cards.
So hang on. So the RBA is going to cut rates because we've got tons of stuff coming in cheap that we can now buy. Wouldn't they? Which would just give everyone more money, right? Because we're not paying as much for things. So wouldn't the RBA be more inclined to keep rates where they are or push them higher because
Well, no,
they don't
the
want us to have everything I've learned about economics says the RBA doesn't want me to have money.
no. Well, they do want you to have money when inflation is below target.
Oh, okay.
Because the whole time we've been doing this show, inflation's been above target, and so the RBA is trying to lean against that and bring inflation down. But once inflation's below target, then they want you to have more money.
Right. Ah,
And
okay. So then I
yeah,
start buying things which makes supply a bit shorter and pushes prices up.
yeah, exactly.
Oh boy, howdy,
Exactly.
look at me, I'm getting it. I
Yeah,
finally understand.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
so
so
if they cut rates, then that's house prices to the moon.
yeah, potentially. Because
Does
you
that
get
help? Does that do anything with affordability then? Because
no. Well,
but everyone's
no,
got more
exactly.
money because they're not paying as much for their washing machines and fridges and TVs and cars. So
Yeah.
if they've got more money, then is it do they track a bit parallel, like affordability and house prices? People have more money to save for a deposit, but house prices are going up, so you just remain
Yeah. No, I mean
squashed.
affordability is sort of almost never changes
Yeah.
because like as soon as you increase, this is what, if you increase anything on the demand side, like you reduce interest rates or you give people money like a first homeowners grant, they've now got more money to go out and buy stuff, but then that just goes straight into prices and
Just
prices
pushes
just go
prices
up.
up. Right.
Yeah.
So how do we get
Yeah.
affordability down? Increased supply of houses.
Increased supply relative to demand. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those 9 new houses that Labor was talking about building.
In 2028.
Should really help out. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. Hey, we'd love it if you left a rating and a review wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast. But even more love it if you share the podcast with a friend. Spread the word for CV if you're enjoying it. But Thomas, Tariffs, rates, Fed. What's going on with the Fed? How are they feeling with everything that Trump's doing?
Well, this is interesting. This story is interesting and it's kind of been swamped by the tariff story, but I actually think it's more important. So Jerome Powell came out, had a testimony in Congress, and they were asking about tariffs, and he said, like, we did think it was transitory. We now think it's possibly not.
I knew it.
Yeah, you
Every
called
time,
it.
I think now we can finally say, whenever you hear the word transitory, it means we don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So anyone, if you ever, it's a red flag to me now. I'm add it to my list of my little black book of red flags.
Black book of red flags. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, so the line that the Fed had been running is, okay, we're not going to adjust policy based on tariffs, and that was sort of appeasing to the Trump administration. Now that he's saying it's going to be persistent, means that they need to understand the impact of tariffs before they can cut rates further.
Right.
So that's a substantial shift in their position.
I'd hate to be him. We need to understand the impact of tariffs before we can cut rates further. What are the tariffs today, Donald? Today, 10%. Okay, what are they going to be tomorrow? Tomorrow, 134%.
Yes.
It feels like one of those videos with the guy that, decides packaging for fruit or whatever that guy is. Yeah.
Good luck, impossible.
Yeah,
impossible to try to understand the impact of tariffs. Yeah, like incredibly difficult. And it sort of means, like, at the very least, he's just got to sit on his hands and just kind of see what happens. Because they were cutting. They were saying that more cuts were needed through the year. They're now saying, like, we're just going to sit on our hands because we don't know. Which is the reasonable thing to do for the Fed. That makes sense. But then along comes Trump. And so Trump announces, in all caps, obviously, cut interest rates, Jerome, and stop playing politics.
Sign DJT.
Sign DJT, yeah.
Regards. Right.
So this is another institution that Trump's just destroying. We used to have central bank independence, and politicians of all sides saw that as sort of sacred, and you had to support central bank independence.
Yeah.
Trump's just thrown that right out the window. And now the question now is, how long Jerome Powell, like, no, every economist and everyone in the markets agrees with Powell on this. And, like, yep, this is the thing the Fed has to do. Of course, you have to hold rates in this current setting because no one knows what's going on. And it might be quite easily could be very inflationary. So, of course, sitting on your hands is the right thing to do. But then Trump's gunning for Powell and saying you need to cut. And so now the question is, well, how long does Powell last in the top job? Because Ambrose, I think he's with the Financial Times, Ambrose Evans Pritchard is if you know the name. Yeah, like I think maybe he was a hedge fund manager for a long time. But he's really alarmed by this. And he's saying, like, you look what happened. Like last week, Laura Loomer is like a conspiracy theorist, got the heads of the National Security Agency fired because she said that they weren't loyal enough. But Trump's also fired the FBI's head of intelligence, its head of counterterrorism, its head of criminal investigations. And then it's the military's joint chief of staff's been fired. So he's like, he's on a purge. Ambrose Evans Pritchard called it a Bolshevik purge of everyone who matters in America.
Yeah, just public servants, Thomas. Just, surplus to requirements. Who needs the head of the security service?
So this looks like, it looks like he's just installing cronies.
Yeah.
But then you get to Powell, right? And so, like, Pete Hegseth gets appointed head of defense. He's like a Fox News talking head or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, that's a bit weird. And but, like, once you reinstall someone in the Fed, that markets are going to interpret that very, very differently.
Does he have the power to do that? Can the president.
I think since he's installed all of his judges, I think he can kind of do whatever he wants.
Around it. He's found the loophole.
He's
again.
found it. Yeah, he's found.
It's
it.
like I can't
it's not
fire that
stop
guy,
him.
but if I fire all of these people,
yeah,
then they can all fire him. If I just get rid of the people who can and can't fire him, then I can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a something where the Fed chair can be fired for negligence or not fulfilling their duties with due course. Like it's a bit of a vague thing, and people are saying like, there's it's not watertight.
Yeah. So inaction might be seen as not fulfilling your duties. And I think that's the Trump playbook, right? He's very much of the school of like, I don't care what we do, we have to do something. Like I just feel like anyone who went to him and said, look, I think the time now is to pause and reflect and just take a breath. He's like, just get out of here. I'm not interested in your. I mean, he did the 90-day pause, but that might have been, as we discussed, for ulterior motives. So I feel like as you say, sit on your hands and do nothing and see how it plays out is not really in the playbook. It's more of a, I want you doing something. Yeah, I don't care what it is.
Maybe
just make a call and do something. So
well, I mean, the argument for a preemptive hike is there. Because we know tariffs are coming. We know tariffs are going to be inflationary. Yeah. You might just say like, well, let's just ratchet it up and then see where we go, if you want to do something. But that's not going to be popular. Trump wants lower rates because lower rates are popular.
Right.
And that's what I think is going on. And so how long? Yeah. So there's a question mark now over Jerome Powell because Trump's gunning for him. And the kind of the recent example here is over in Turkey. So you remember we talked about this. Turkey had inflation of 47%, right? Like just insane inflation. And the central bank governor was like, we probably should hike. And Erdogan's like, no, you need to cut. And he's like, can't cut rates into 47% inflation. So what are you even talking about? And he's like, you're gone. And fired him and installed a governor who would cut the rates, who then cut the rates, and inflation went to 70%.
Yeah.
So it's like
did anyone make money out of that though, Thomas? That's what you got to look at. Did anybody make money?
So that happens in Turkey and a whole bunch of Timpok dictatorships. But when it happens in America, you're destroying the treasury market, like the bond market and all the debt, because now you've got like insane inflation and then the currency has to adjust. Every central bank in the world has USDTs, like treasuries, as part of their reserves. You're destroying that. Like the whole financial system unravels if the world loses faith in American monetary policy, which they would if Trump just installed a crony who cuts rates into an inflationary environment.
Right.
And so I think for me, this is where the global economy comes apart. Tariffs. Yeah, it's a thing. It's significant, and it changes things. But it doesn't. I don't see it crashing the global economy or like completely coming undone. But if Trump installs a crony as Fed chair, then all bets are off, I reckon.
Sell the chair, as they say. That's a bit of market speak for you, Thomas.
Yeah.
Buy the dip, sell the chair.
You've been tuning into Donald Trump's pump and dump signal group, haven't you? Sell the chair.
All over it, Thomas. 15 chatbots now up and running. I've built 6 since we started this podcast. All right, Thomas, finally on the show. China's population has fallen for the 3rd year in a row. What's going on in China? Why is this a concern?
Well, exactly that. Yeah, no, population's falling. The demographics in China are pretty grim. And this is one of the big challenges for China. And you talk about like the middle income trap, that their demographics are starting to turn Japanese before they've reached a Japanese level of economic development. Yeah.
Okay.
So I forget who it was, but that someone was saying that China now faces the 4 Ds of economic destruction. Is demographics, which is the falling population, and the falling working age population is probably more important. The working age population has been falling since the about 2010, I think it peaked.
Right. But the elderly population, though, they're falling over all the time.
That's right.
All the time.
Yeah, that's why you can't get any productivity out of them.
Sorry. It's not only was it a bad joke, it was a reused joke from the intro. So I apologise for the listeners out there.
Okay. Yeah,
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's the 4 Ds. You've got demographics, which is that.
Yep.
They've got debt.
Yeah.
They've got deflation, so prices are falling, particularly property prices are falling.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Donald as the final D. It's sort of like locking you out of the global trading system.
Feels like we shoehorned in the last D.
Yeah.
But 3D was perfect. It would have been good. It would have been like, whoa, China's gone 3D. And it would have been the perfect little headline. And then someone said, why don't we make it 4Ds with Donald?
Yeah. Actually, I think it was him who put it in there.
Yeah, fair enough. Right.
So,
okay.
All to note, just China has its challenges, and
what does that mean for us or for the rest of the world?
I mean, a lot of things, I guess. Like too many to name.
Top one.
Pick one. Yeah. Well, China is still Australia's number one export market, largely around raw minerals, iron ore. That demand's going to sort of grind to a halt as the urban build out finishes, and they end up probably with just too many houses on their hands.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Now we're done with that. Well, I presume.
But improves affordability.
Affordability. There you go. So yeah, anyone in Australia who's feeling priced out of home ownership. Just a hop, skip, and a jump over the oceans, and you could find yourself a sweet little condo. All right. I think that'll do us for today.
I'm
to
done.
get through this big show. There's so much going on. As I say, we're recording on the 10th of April. We'll try and get this out. This will come out on YouTube probably a little bit earlier than Wednesday on the pod. So things, as we know, could completely have turned upside down since we recorded. Everything we've said could be complete bullshit by the time it comes out. So, but it's a ride. It's a wild time. So, before we go, just to let you know, we will be away. We've got school holidays for the next couple of weeks. Thomas and I will be frantically trying to take care of small humans. And so we won't be able to bring you a show for a couple of weeks, but we look forward to bringing you everything that happens and bringing you the wash up of the past couple of weeks in 2 weeks when no doubt we'll see all sorts of things going on. So, hopefully you'll tune back in then. Please don't unsubscribe. And in fact, if you're not subscribed already, why not subscribe? And then that way the show will just magically drop into your feed as soon as we're back. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time on Comedian versus Economist. Until then, it's bye for now.